Hello and welcome to With Bowl and Spoon. My guests today are the farmers for Who Cooks For You Farm. You want to introduce yourselves?
I'm Aeros Lillstrom.
I'm Chris Brittenburg. We are the farmers at Who Cooks For You Farm. We are a certified organic vegetable farm, and we have completed this past year our 14th season, so we're rolling into our 15th year, which is pretty exciting. We grow about 40 acres of vegetables and do farmers markets. We have a CSA, and predominantly that makes up our business model there.
We do still do a little bit of wholesale to some old-time customers, some small family-owned restaurants in the area. We were established in 2009. We have two sons, Cedar and Cyan, and we have a staff of about 12 full-time and 7 part-time.
That's a big staff.
We're the Who Crew.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I love your logo.
Oh, thank you.
Big fans of owls.
Yeah, thanks.
You mentioned local restaurants here. Now, we are here way out in the rural area of Pennsylvania, and are you talking about like local to your farm or local like in Pittsburgh?
Local in Pittsburgh. We
Okay.
have sold it to a few places out here that do buy local food, but currently we're not doing that. Since 2020, it really scaled down to just our main buyers and family-owned restaurants in Pittsburgh.
I want to talk about how you guys got started. You're first generation farmers, so I love that. And so what made you get involved in farming?
Well, independently, I started farming when I was 18 and out in Northern California. A best friend of mine, I had 2 great friends at the school, and both of them were from organic vegetable farms. And I got to work on them and just by volunteering in the beginning, and I loved it. And I then did my first 2 years when I was 18. And that's where I started, got my feet wet, and loved the life of the family farm and loved the family farms that I visited being on those farms. And I wanted that life for myself as an adult and to have a family on a farm. I wanted to raise children on a farm. And how about you, hon?
Growing up, I didn't do any sort of growing of anything, really.
Where'd you grow up?
Eastern Pennsylvania, Bethlehem. And so I grew up in suburbia. You know, always heard the stories of our grandparents, our great grandparents, like potato growers, big farmers, but they all got out of that, and so there was really no sort of green thumb in my family. You know, I had jobs. I went to school, went to college, had jobs, did all sorts of different things, and just really liked being outside a lot. Really liked nature. Spent a lot of time sort of studying, you know, birds or wildflowers, all that stuff. And then realized I was kind of stuck because my love for that stuff was so strong that I couldn't really justify sitting inside doing something. I tried it didn't really work. And just realized I was either going to teach people about nature or I was going to grow people good food. And that's kind of what happened. I just thought I would give that a shot. And my first farm was, the first farm that I worked on was in Kutztown, Pennsylvania, John and Amy Good's farm. Back then it was Quiet Creek Farm. And so they were a certified organic CSA farm, and yeah, did that, and that was a huge eye-opener for me. It was really fun. It was physically demanding. I really liked that. I loved being outside in the sun and stuff, and I just loved the access to the food. You know, just certain things really blew me away, like strawberry season. For the farmer, strawberry season is very different from the consumer because the farmer and the staff get basically unlimited access to those things. And I really enjoyed that a lot, to eat as many strawberries as you possibly could, you know, or watermelon. There's a cracked watermelon. Well, what do you do with that? Well, you don't take it to market and give it to anybody. You take that home, you know. So, but really, really enjoyed my first experience there. And then from there, Aeros and I, shortly thereafter, I was 28 when I started farming. Aeros and I met at the Pasa conference.
I was going to guess you guys met at a farming conference.
Yes, Laura, you got it.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. And we got to know each other, and she said, I have a huge farm back in western Pennsylvania. And I said, really? Let's go check that out.
Wait, what was your degree in?
It was in biology, general biology with a focus on ecology.
Okay, so kind of relevant. And what was your degree
I
in?
have a fine art degree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Me too.
Okay.
And Brett too.
Okay. Yeah, it was for me, like, just talking about, like, the history of, like, coming into farming and deciding, oh, this is going to be how I want to make a living, is that fine art I was making art that was not at all sellable. It was all ephemeral and not sellable. It was installation art, and I knew I needed to make a living that I wanted to make an impact, and yet I love the idea of things being ephemeral, and farming is all ephemeral. And just the impact on the work that I was doing was just trying to show nature to people and have them embrace it, the beauty of it and its importance. And that's what farming is. And I was studying with several herbalists, just as my transition with studying art, it was also studying with herbalists. And with that mixture, it just made sense, just like that spirit that you're taught when you're taught herbalism, different than farming. But there's definitely spiritual farming as well, but just that element of learning the earth spirit when you're learning herbs is more part of your lessons. And when it comes to farming, it felt like that was a great segue from art, that art would go into people, that, okay, you can grow the food and it goes into them and they will be nourished. And so it's a way more physical thing, but it made sense to me.
The idea of nourishing people and passing your art on is one aspect, which is amazing, but also I feel like the creative process is solving puzzles and that creative problem solving, and that's what you have a lot of when you're growing stuff and when you're coordinating the schedules and all of that. So I see how that fits together really well with everything. So then you guys met at the Pasa conference, and you had already bought a farm?
No, so we started farming on the farm that I grew up on. So we're looking out the window right now of the farm that we're on, and just up the hill, we see that ridge over there is where I grew up, and that's where we started our farm. And so we started just with growing on 1 acre, but the farm I grew up in is 280 acres, but very little of it is tillable. It's not ideal ground for vegetable farming, but we were there for a good, how many years? 7 years. And then we've been here for the remainder. That was our pack shed, like our facilities is where we began, are all still there, but we transitioned here and just last year built something here. So it's just a mile up the road, so we've been able to stay at both properties and still work on both.
We have a couple of hoop houses up there.
Yeah, it was just, that farm was a family farm in the sense of, like, my parents were back to the lander hippie folks, and so we grew our own food and we had animals, and it was just sustainable for our family. It wasn't there was no production whatsoever.
Okay, so that explains it.
Yeah. And that also still it's still for us getting into vegetables. Her father, who had sheep there, so all he had, he was really kind of hands off, but just had some sheep. And so getting started with vegetables, there was zero infrastructure. That's why we always say it's first generation farm, vegetable farm, because there wasn't like water lines dug, there was no ground that was tilled, there was no tractor.
No business nothing, in production.
Nothing at all.
But you guys had that back to the earth sort of ideal in your head already from each of your growing up.
Or just like finding that in ourselves to really more so like have the lifestyle of a farmer is really something that I think someone needs to grow into and determine before they even start farming. Like this is the life you want to live. You want to be working out in nature a lot, or at least organizing to get people food. I think that the production side is definitely different than, say, growing up on the farm. It's a very different life.
Yeah, and we jumped into it, in a really weird way. It wasn't like we were like business people.
Exactly.
And our first, we weren't like, here's our business plan. It was like, okay, so let's buy some radish seed. And let's have this area be for tomatoes, and we'll mulch them, and we'll put stakes in, and they'll look so pretty, and then we're going to have some tomatoes, then we're going to sell them at the farmer's market, and everybody's going to buy everything. And So
this was your first business plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, we really did.
It was that basic.
It was
100% that basic.
Yeah, to say that we just I think for many of our beginning years, we flew by the fly of your, what's that line?
Flew by the seat of your pants.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was basically what we were doing. I mean, there was not much order and organization other than like us chatting and, oh yeah, let's do this. Oh, that's great.
We planned and organized, but without experience, without now looking at how to manage money and anticipate costs and dealing with like all those things, and then incorporating, your plan, looking down the line, I've been to so many classes where they're talking to beginning farmers and they're saying, these are the things you got to be doing. You got to be looking down the line 4, 5, 6 years. What are your rotations? That is so far over your head until you start to get really seasoned, and you can really feel that flow. It's not just a heady thing anymore. It's like the longer you do this thing, you just get more seasoned. You really feel the transition and when things need to be happening.
Yeah, and it was, I think, we were thinking that the summer before was like, oh, let's think about how we can get funding. And because neither of us had much money to speak of and cash on hand. And we applied for 0% interest credit cards. And we got $12,000. Luckily, years in advance, my sister told me to get a credit card. So that was smart, because if I did have some credit history, so
I had 0,
and Chris had 0, but you were able to get $3,000. So together, we got a little nest egg of $12,000 of 0% interest credit cards, and that was how we started the farm. And we think both of us, I think Chris had $4,000 in cash, and I had
a truck.
And yet you bought the truck. You didn't have that.
No, I bought the truck.
Yeah, you bought the truck, and then.
So you got the girl and the farm and the truck
and
the dog.
Yeah.
And Chris had 2 dogs. And so, it was just very basic. We were living, out of my dad's house for the very beginning. And then, we were living out of what we called just the spring house. And it was just basically an empty pole barn that was covering the spring so the sheep wouldn't get into the spring area. And
turned it into a house.
And we put electricity in it, and we brought water down to it. We didn't have water for the first year of our farming. We carried water. So it was very primitive beginning.
You carried water to the crops or for your
We carried
living?
water to our housing, and to the crops. We had gravity flow situation.
But the first year we were carrying water to the greenhouse.
To the greenhouse. We were carrying water to the greenhouse. And we didn't have irrigation till the beginning, mid-season that year. It was all very fly by the seat. Oh yeah, this. Oh yeah, that. The things you don't think about, that very unplanned, but a lot of passion.
That's great. So what is a pole house?
A pole barn is just a simple, it's not usually, doesn't have a foundation usually, but it can. But it's just a simple structure with basically nothing inside of it. It's just an open cavity.
Okay. And you made that into a house.
Yeah, we just insulated it, put in a nice floor, all that stuff.
We hooked up to the natural gas, and we got just a kitchen oven, and we hooked up water and a gray water system. And one of our first dates was building a toilet. So we continued to use the compost.
Date?
Yeah, it was a hot date.
Yeah, it was a composting. We ate liver.
Yeah, our first date we did eat liver.
We made a composting toilet.
It was, when you're so passionate about living simply and you're young and you fall in love really quick, it's like, wow, that's cool. Yeah, let's do that.
You're fireballs.
Yeah.
Wow. So you meet at Pasa. And your big pickup line was, I got land.
Well, I think that Chris is had intentions that I didn't realize that he told his friend about. He's like, well, I'm going to find a wife at the company this weekend.
I mean, that's easy, right?
And I was definitely not intending to do any of that at all. But I fell in love.
But she was single.
Yeah, I was single, and I was like, this guy's beautiful. What a creative, sweetheart. And we hit it off right away. Things
it was good.
Went quickly.
So then you ate liver, you made a composting toilet, and then you got married and had babies.
Well, we did the composting toilet, and Chris was farming in Eastern PA at that time. I was doing a landscaping sort of intentional gardening space where like educational kitchen area out here where I live. And I was then that summer studying with Rosemary Gladstar in Vermont. And I was like, well, what? I need to do this internship because Chris was like, we should farm. And I'm like, I agree. I need to do this. I have to follow through with this plan that was like ending in the fall. In the meantime, we had like our neighbor tilling ground up in the back 40 where we had open pasture. And that summer that we met in February, we tilled ground and put in a cover crop for the fields that we intended to grow in the next season. So we had a beautiful buckwheat cover crop that we tilled under and then put in a winter cover crop. That was 2008 when we met, and then 2009 we actually had our first production year.
Yeah.
And yeah, wow. it was bada boom, bada bang.
I wasn't like it wasn't a scary thing just because I had been doing it for 2 years. I also had a lot of experience with the growing stuff. But again, it wasn't a scary thing because we were very comfortable growing vegetables and sort of getting out there and working from morning until night and having that not be something that you were worried about. We didn't have kids. Her dad was here, but we didn't have any other family really nearby. So it was just, 100% focused, and we just went for it. Yeah, just seeding this stuff, seeding that stuff. We didn't start with anything, no tractors. We had somebody turning ground over for us, and so we were trying to do everything by hand without petroleum. Okay, and that quickly became not very feasible. We were out there just really resorting to using all manual labor, just whatever strength you can muster. And it just, one of our neighbors came over one day and on a 4-wheeler, and we were taking up straw bales up the hill. It's on a hill.
On a wagon.
On a hand wagon. So she's pulling it and I'm pushing it. And it's hard. And she comes over and
up a hill.
She goes, what are you doing? I was like, we're just getting these up there. She's like, throw those things on the back and boom, boom, boom. And we're like, wow, And it's not like, we were just so focused on our intention, which was to try to not use much petroleum. But that quickly went away to more prioritize feeding more and more and more people with the same quality produce. And that required petroleum.
Yeah, and we also, that first year, we did not have the money to invest in anything, but our first year, we were able to make $5,000, and we were able to get, I don't know if we got a loan on the tractor, or a family member helped us get a loan. I think that's how it happened, and we got a tractor our first year. So it was like, okay, we need this tractor. That became the reality, and that was, our first tool. Was a tractor and a rototiller. Very basic equipment to begin with. We don't use a rototiller on the farm anymore, but we that's what we started with, the basics, very basic.
Yeah, you were establishing the land.
Just one step at a time, baby steps.
So what did you grow the first year? I'm guessing radishes and tomatoes, and then where did you sell it?
We had 2 markets in Pittsburgh. We sold in the north side, and we sold at East Liberty. And we just did those 2 markets our first year.
2 of the primo markets.
At the time.
Yeah, they were great.
Somehow we slipped in there. I think Blackberry Meadows had done the year before and dropped out of East Liberty, and we just happened to apply at that point. We're like, well, come right in.
Yeah, and we took their organic spot. That was like they were the organic vendor there before.
And we grew a little bit of everything. Broccoli, we tried. We were so excited. Oh my gosh. But it was everything that we possibly could, sugar snap peas, and always those, sometimes, depending, how the land is managed before you till it. This was fertilized for 20 years with sheep manure and fallow. So when we turned that over and kind of got the biology activated, the yields were insane. Some of those yields I still remember, the sugar snap peas and stuff.
So many. Right
away, you're introduced to just the hard life and just the consequences of trying to farm. And because our first 2 years, we didn't produce a single tomato. It was the first 2 years that we saw late blight in early July in Pennsylvania. And it was like, so it's still kind of around, it can still do that now. But back then, never even heard of. Never. And so
to lose a whole entire crop.
First two years, which is like, I'm here to say we made $5,000. I'm thinking, why was that? Well, it's because we didn't have a single market or a single tomato to take to market, not one. And I mean, that's our greatest, money generator for sure.
Yeah, and you guys are known for your tomatoes. That's what I'm sitting here shocked because
it was definitely the crop our first crop. 2 years.
And we had no idea what it was. I mean, we looked it up, but we're just like, we never saw that back on the other farms. What the heck?
And
that's
the same thing that was like caused the tomato famine. So it was like, oh my gosh, wow, look at that. This is the beginning of our farming life, and this is horrible. But we continued in the second year. Same thing. Yeah, we saw it right away, and we're like, well, we have to just take them all out. We just pulled them all out.
Oh,
so you have to pull them out. I mean, it's just like you don't want it to be there. You don't want the disease to continue.
I think it really made us upset.
Oh yeah, it was very emotional. It was extremely emotional time.
That's putting it very mildly, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with the name?
Who Cooks for You Farm? We were chatting in the car about a name. We were on a drive to Pittsburgh, I believe, and we were talking about having a bird in the title because Chris is a birder. And he was teaching me all this stuff I didn't really know. I mean, I knew some, but I didn't know their names and the calls that went along with them. So he was in the midst of, we were in the thralls of learning, I was learning all the calls. And we were talking through the calls. And like, let's not necessarily have a name in the title, but let's have a call in the title. And so...
Because they're associated, with a phrase or something like that.
Yeah, so we were going through these, like, how about drink your tea? I was like, oh, no, okay. How about, what's this? And like, how about who cooks for you? And I was like, oh my God, that's great. And then a lot of people ask us, hey, do you cook for me? And we're like, we don't cook for you. You cook for yourself. It's just a good question to ask yourself. Who cooks for you? So that was, we have them in the valley. They are very present. So it's nice to hear the name. And it's also great to see like the young children be able to see the owl and make the recognition. It's just a nice little...
Yeah, it's nice.
It's beautiful.
So you guys aren't doing winter market this year?
We did 3 winter markets. We're about to do one more in January, and then we're going to call it.
That's great.
We would love to be able to do more of a winter market, but we also love to recharge a bit.
You need that. It's
really do.
Yeah.
And then there's not a great space for it. I mean, if the weather turns, you're just standing out there and it's rough.
Well, and the vegetables, predominantly the main issue is that the vegetables are frozen as we're selling them, and that doesn't feel great. It feels really bad to sell someone a head of lettuce that should not be frozen. It's freezing on the stand, and you're just like, take it quick.
Yeah.
And it's, no. And just as a vendor, it's just hard to spend all the time to go there, and then you're like, oh great, we harvested all this stuff that's really primo stuff at that time of year. You should be able to sell out, but then it's so cold people don't come because it's very uncomfortable to shop. And then the idea of not selling all the stuff and being frozen and the stuff freezing. So eventually I think Pittsburgh will hopefully have an indoor market. That would be ideal.
The public market was really awesome.
Yeah,
down on the strip.
Yeah, it was too big of a space to start. That big was just bonkers. Like, That was hard to maintain.
That makes sense. Anyway, yeah.
But yeah, hopefully someday. I mean, the city has lots of properties that we don't use fully, so
it's got to prioritize it.
But I believe in Catherine Vargas, the director.
I do as well.
For Pittsburgh, yeah.
Yeah, I think she could do great things. She can make stuff happen. It seems to happen under her watch, so we'll see. Keep eyes peeled there. I wanted to talk a little bit about the urban, rural farming and the differences between them. I mean, obviously you needed land to be able to grow what you wanted. So I think what I'm trying to figure out is, how does urban farming solve food insecurity? Because they're not going to grow enough food to feed everybody. But does urban farming help you guys in the work that you do, bringing food into the city? My theory is that people get exposed to different kinds of vegetables, they get exposed to different concepts through urban agriculture, and that hopefully that's helping and reflecting in your appeal to urban dwellers.
Yeah. I think that's, I've never heard anyone say that, and I think that's smart. I think it's all so much about education, people getting exposed to vegetables. so many people that come to the market for the first time, it's so beautiful to see their reaction. They're, oh my gosh, wow, you grow all this? It's like, yeah, it's so exciting to see someone, have some exposure and want more. And so I've heard about the market, sounds great. And so they come and it's so satisfying. So I feel like, yeah, that's a great segue. I don't think that urban agriculture could feed the people in an urban area. It's definitely not enough room, unless we really, really worked on cleaning up city soil and using every inch that we have.
But also, if we turned around our farm and we just grew food, let's say, all the food that we grew went to just feed little itty bitty New Bethlehem over here, I doubt we could even supply them with everything. So,
do you know offhand what the population is of New Bethlehem?
It's like under 1,000 people.
But I think your point
Families, it's people,
good.
Individual people.
I think that getting good food and interesting food and different food, really fresh food, in the hands of people it's an experience that they're not going to forget. And when you get that side of it, and then you go back to the other side of maybe shopping at grocery stores and stuff, I think it really feels like you're kind of getting cut short, especially when you're paying like the same amount of money. I wouldn't say by any means that we're charging so much more, if any more, for a lot of our things. This year, after a number of years, we raised our prices a little bit, and we want it to be that way. We don't want to continue to price people out. We want to see all sorts of people shopping at our stand. We'd really like to see people out here be a little more interested, but I'm not so sure that there's so many folks that are, cooking isn't super popular. It takes a lot of time. It's kind of a pain in the butt. And I think that depending on your home situation, you might not have the time, or might not prioritize that time.
Well, I think for, at least to speak on our local, where we are in New Bethlehem, an hour and a half north of Pittsburgh, we were just at a dinner party last night celebrating the New Year, and, we're talking about how a lot of the farms have shut down in the area. And they're getting overgrown with weeds, and the fields are not grazed by cattle, or they're not made into hay anymore. Yeah, but a lot of people that still live out here have a garden. So when we were trying to sell out here, we were selling in the Clarion Farmers Market. And it was really good in spring. Business was amazing. I was so impressed by the amount of customers that came out. But then when it's prime time, everyone has their own garden. You don't see where is everyone? No one, the markets were very vacant. There were just not the amount of people. And they're out having fun, and they're out working in the garden and stocking up their food. We do the most of the local clients that we get are people who want to buy bulk for their stocking up. And because they had a crop loss, or they didn't get to plant this year. And so locally, we still live in an area that is, people have farms, or people have a big yard and they garden, because a lot of people that are living here are from here, and that's how we grew up, and that's what we do. City mouse, country mouse kind of thing. Very different life, but we all need to eat. So as long as, I think us coming to the city, I feel like it's a blessing to be able to bring people really good food that's grown in fresh air, and we're able to bring that to the city. It's a great thing. It's our urban center. It is where we need the population to sell to. And we could sell to more and more people. And each year it's more and more people. It's so exciting. And that's our goal. We want to feed people. And we want to feed all types of people. And at the market, we reach many, many, many people. It's so great. And, we're trying to diversify our neighborhoods that we're delivering CSA. And if people approach us, they're interested in being a host, and they can be a host site for receiving boxes for their neighborhood. Totally exciting. We've grown by word of mouth. Our customers have helped us expand. And this year we're actually working on this winter to be having our own SNAP readers, so that we can just the ease of our customers. So if someone's receiving SNAP and paying with SNAP, then they don't have to go to another stand to cash out. They can just come to us. We can be more of an easier shopping experience for people that have a SNAP card. So we're trying to make it more and more accessible every year, and more diversity of stops. And we really try and watch with our prices too, that it's affordable. we like hearing that from people that, yeah, your food's affordable. That's like a great compliment because, you know, we don't want to be the organic farm. It's like, no, it's so expensive. We try and be more efficient in all of our moves on the farm so that we don't have to raise prices. It's important.
That said, your prices are a little out of range for some people. Mm-hmm. You have to stay competitive, and that's, you know, there's a fine line between survival and not surviving as a farmer. Mm-hmm. So I understand that. How do you set your prices? That's not the question I want to ask.
No, setting prices and like what to charge for something, what makes sense. I mean, that's a great thing to talk about because, you know, usually you're just jumping off of what everybody else is doing at first. If you're looking at your numbers well, then you can sort of justify maybe charging certain prices, but then you also have to understand the consequences of changing that price. If you want to make a certain amount of money on head lettuce, okay, and then just be prepared for the consequences. If it's, you know, a little more affordable than everybody else's at market, that word gets around quick and you're going to sell out all the time. But then you're going to think, well, I could throw a quarter on there and make a little more and be more competitive with everybody else. You know, we're told all the time, the conventional growers in there are charging more for something than you are. And it's like, okay, I mean, for me, that's okay. But like at this point, we are at the point that I don't necessarily look at other farmers and say, oh, if they're doing that, then we should. Just not there anymore. You know, I feel like we're very content and I feel like we're very stable. And a lot of that comes from being able to actually see that you're making some money. Because we don't expect to make tons of money. We like to be able to live comfortably and to make some. And that, since that's happening, it's like, okay, well then I'm happy with everything. We don't need to continue to jack everything up. You know, I mean, we all want to get paid well for our time, you know, but setting prices and figuring prices and not trying to price folks out. I mean, there's some people that definitely come and they say, that bunch of kale is not big enough. But a lot of the things that they're not thinking about is that 2 months ago, they were enormous. And right now you're at the tail end and you're picking these little baby leaves and there's 50 leaves in a bunch versus 6. And the 6-leaf bunch was way bigger than the 50-leaf bunch, you know, stuff like that. Figuring prices was always hard, was always challenging. And you always catch flack for it, you know, no matter if seems like you're very reasonable or not.
No, that's great that you bring up the seasonality of things. You have the hoop houses that extends the season, but also it's more labor because you can't depend on the rain to water your farm. That's also something that has to be considered. So tell me something exciting about what you've grown in the hoop houses and extended the season. Like how have the hoop houses helped you guys?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the hoop houses are you know, they're really valuable real estate. Obviously, there's a lot of investment that goes into the construction of it all. And just to start with this, there is a sort of a weird sour sort of flavor in everybody's mouths when they think of a hot house or a hoop house. And that something's coming out of there. They think it's somehow artificial or hydroponic or something. But the reality is that you're growing these things in the ground. The biology in the ground has to be right so that the plant can grow. So it's living soil. Okay. You know, we have 2 layers of plastic over steel arches, and that's it. So we're just able to control water. That's really what it allows us to do, is to keep leaves dry.
And these 2 tunnels that you're looking at here are our latest tunnels. And, you know, we really went and invested in having like roll-up sides that are automated. And we have ventilation that is automated. We have 5 tunnels up on the ridge that you can sort of see through the tree line up there. Those are where we started, and they have none of those bells and whistles. And that means that you're running out midday. Oh, it's too hot in there. We got to roll up the sides, even though it was super foggy and chilly in the morning. You know, it's 80 in there now. Run. You know, we don't want to lose blossoms. We've come to a point where, okay, these are very, very big houses. The automation, has made the plants healthier. The size of them, too, to be able to have one crop. Okay, a 500-foot row of one crop versus 100 feet of one crop.
Yeah, the hoop houses are 30 by 500 feet. And so a typical tunnel is 100 feet long, 30 feet wide. So it's essentially 5 tunnels. So each bed in there is basically one tunnel that we're used to growing in on the old farm. But the soil in the hoop houses, we cater to that soil so much in terms of the bacteria and the biology that's going into that soil there. We are constantly inoculating the soil with these blends of bacteria, and then trying to feed those bacteria slowly throughout the season. Whether it's we're putting fish through the drip or even foliar feeding, things like sugar, magnesium sulfates, all these trace minerals, and all that's doing is you're spraying this plant, and it engages the root system to bring in more that is down there. It's not like you're just spraying on the leaves and just absorbs in the leaves and that's it. It's like it just stimulates the entire system. The vegetables that we pull out of the hoop houses in terms of nutrition, I think, are very elevated versus the stuff that we are bringing from the field, because we just spend that much more time taking care of that dirt. It's really nice dirt.
And you guys are certified organic.
Yeah.
So how did you make the decision to go certified organic? Because I know there's a lot of record keeping and process that needs to be done for that, and it's costly.
Yeah. Well, we've been through all the stages. We've grown organically all along since we started. And at first, certification wasn't something we were really worried about because we couldn't afford any level of more work. And then we became certified naturally grown because we're like, well, it just didn't make sense for us to jump through hoops with selling direct to our consumer, because we knew everyone we were selling to. We could talk to them about it. And so certified naturally grown for like 7 years, I think, on the old farm. And then when we came here, after a couple of years being here on this new property, we became certified organic. Because we were selling to more restaurants and doing some wholesale, we weren't in touch necessarily directly with our customers anymore. We're selling to the East End Food Co-op. So that meant a lot. That certification means a lot to people. If they don't talk to you, they know, okay, well, that certification is true. And we believe that. And it's also just helped us become better farmers from the record keeping. We've learned a lot from it. We continue to learn from it. It keeps us on our toes as to just knowing our checks and balances and be able to do recalls. It's been valuable, and we believe in this certification because we're joining the masses of people who really care on a business level about being certified, about growing organically. So we're just really elevating our business to that level of maturity. I think it's more, and it's a value that people see the symbol and they trust, and I trust for myself when I'm shopping, and so it is contributing to the whole of the certification of organic.
Yeah, it doesn't tell you everything. Right, there are some pretty big elephants in the room there, with certified organic, but it does tell you things that we're not using. It's just not telling you exactly what we're doing to make sure that your vegetables the vegetables that we're pulling off the ground are really just loaded with vitamins. Because you could go organically and just say, I'm not doing X, Y, and Z, but it's not really telling you what I am doing. And there's not a lot of enforcement on that level either, in terms of are you cover cropping your ground? Some of the things that you really need to do in order to have a successful farm, that, soil that is charged and will produce huge heads of lettuce or cabbage or broccoli, just give you delicious tomatoes. That soil needs to be protected in so many different ways. And as an organic farmer, we're just really limited in terms of the firepower we can use to get in that dirt, to get everything rolling, and then have these cabbages be just big and beautiful and actually keep, because when you're short in whatever minerals or whatever it is, or if the soil just isn't really that taken care of, you don't get a lot of cover crops on there, you pay the price. There's no question. And if you look out the window here, these fields are covered in grass that's dead. It's as high as my waist, and those were oats and peas. These cover crops have winter killed. That amount of organic matter, like if I went out there right now with a shovel, now that grass is dead, the roots are starting to rot. I mean, we would probably see so many earthworms. It's insane. But what those things are doing in there right now is just work that we can't mimic. They are doing work that we absolutely need in order to do this work and to produce the most nutritious crops that we possibly can. But we just need to do that a lot more as much as we possibly can. And you have to produce food, right? We want to have food late in the season. And that's the time when your window is shrinking as to like when you can get grass seed out and have it grow. And so what we've realized this past year, at least it's a decision I sort of made sort of by myself, was that we're just not going to grow so late. Aeros and I decided we're going to build another hoop house, grow late in there, and then not grow so late out in the field. Even though we're looking at a good amount of money that we're not going to make, okay? I think it's more valuable to have that ground covered and protected for the next season, because whatever we harvest off that ground next year is going to have less disease, less insect pressure, going to be more nutritious, you know. And
with the few field crops that we do still grow later into the season, they are all undersown with something that will hold the ground in the winter. So it's not just like say broccoli, it's all undersown. And that's just
Explain
making
what
sure.
Undersown means. Sorry.
So you would have a broccoli plant and say a bed, and all throughout underneath the broccoli would be say rye or oats. You would have a grass seed of some sort that's holding the soil in place to keep any erosion, and also to feed the soil during the winter, or hold the ground so that
after the broccoli's harvested.
After the broccoli's harvested, or it would come to life in spring. It's a plant that will be holding the ground still in winter, keeping it from erosion, and then it could grow in spring and keeping the soil active. It's not ever abandoned by life. So there's always something there that's going to be there.
And sometimes it could be as simple as, you're going out and you're cultivating something, it could be anything, carrots or whatever, and you know that you're going to be harvesting in, let's say, 3 weeks. Well, 3 weeks is a lot of time to just have soil exposed. And the more that we do this, the more we think like, okay, so we're going to go through and we're going to harvest those carrots. And it would be smart if maybe right now, considering I have 3 weeks, I'm just going to throw down some sort of a grass seed. And we'll go through, we'll harvest all those carrots. And by the time we're done with them, that grass seed's starting to grow nicely.
Gotcha.
And so I just gained 21 days, or let's say 2 weeks of growth on there. And those days really matter, especially in the fall as your days get shorter and you want to cover crop ground. I mean, all of us farmers know, you go out there, you're thinking, okay, I'm finally done harvesting all these things. Now I'm going to throw down the grass. And you look at that grass and you're thinking, what in the heck are you doing? You're not growing. And it's been 2 weeks. You're just starting to put up little spurs, and then it gets cold as heck. And that's it. Either it may live, but it's not going to be enough to hold dirt if there's a lot of water that comes down. And our winters now the ground is softer than soft. And when it rains, it takes a little bit of dirt each time. And as, working Pennsylvania hills, sides, and whatever, you don't have a whole lot of opportunities to leave things uncovered before you've lost a lot of dirt. Many, many, many inches of dirt. We've seen it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And even a very a grade that might be a couple inches. It
doesn't seem like much.
It doesn't seem like much. Oh, it's hardly a hill, and you're like, oh my gosh, look at the bottom of the bed. Look at all the soil that we lost from the middle of the bed. Or it can be extreme, and you don't want it to go away. We only have so much. You don't want to see it go downstream. It's not.
No, it's then talking about the warmer winters. We in this area are supposed to have 10 days below 10 degrees in a row, and we haven't had that in 10 years, maybe 9. I don't know.
Oh wow!
I don't know if you guys have been
I've not seen that
right.
statistic, but yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what I remember.
Yeah. And that's
Below
that's
10.
to actually kill the bugs and kill the bacteria and kill the stuff. That's what farmers have depended on in the past, and we can't depend on that anymore.
Yeah.
Is there anything you guys are doing different? Are there crops because of climate change that you're like, we might be able to grow that now?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Well, we grew sweet potatoes, years ago. We had a good year. It was a hot summer. And then the 3 years following, we had a crop failure every year because it was just a little cool. It was a cooler summer. We're growing them again now, and we're just having, blockbuster yields. It's insane. But yeah, absolutely. I think about that stuff all the time. Whether or not I want to try to do like some of the more summery things, like southern crops, like okra. I'm going to try it this year, although I've been advised not to because it's just not a fun thing to harvest. I'm going to give it a shot.
Oh, wait a minute. People here do grow okra. Why is that such a thing that farmers won't get into?
Well, it's not a big hit. It's not a very common
thing for marketing it?
For our clientele.
Yeah, gotcha.
Like, we don't have...
Culturally.
It's some folks ask for it, but even it's not a huge hit. It's not like it's not a potato. It's definitely not a staple product.
And is it a particularly long growing season too?
No.
No? Okay.
I mean, it's like a tomato, maybe a little less.
So 70, 80 days, yeah.
You know us at market, we like to have a lot of options at market, and we really like that.
You guys get a double stand, space at least, maybe.
Yeah.
We have 4 spots.
Four spots.
Yeah, we have 4 spots.
Yeah.
We're maxed out. Well, they won't let us have any more spots. So we're getting creative with our display.
Yeah, throw tables out front.
I do like the way you have that. Like, there's a little island. That you put in.
Yeah, we need the island. It's necessary.
Yeah.
And then the bagging station. You guys are quite brilliant about the way you manage your market space.
Thanks.
Yeah,
that's all from panic mode in the moment, being at market, seeing how things are just failing miserably, and also shifting from doing a typical farmer's market stand where you're standing behind the table with money on you and you're exchanging that with the customer at the moment of purchase, versus people now, we have it set up where they come, they grab a shopping basket, they go through the whole entire stand, and then we have some registers on the end, and then they are able to get checked out. They take their food. They don't occupy too much space in front of the reg. They take that to the bagging table.
And it's not taking up your time as you walk them through all the stuff they're buying to sale.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's great.
It was too many items people were buying at a time to do the math and then have a customer, like, to be interrupted by simple question, do you have this? Oh gosh, what number was I at? Because that was 25.50, right? And they're like, I think. And you're like, oh yes, we do have broccoli, it's over there. It was too much. We had too much diversity, and the bills were getting too high that it was just confusing to do the math, and then we needed to be using scales at the same time. So it was just the stand was too big to be on one end and run over to the scale and then run back to the person. Oh, you need another bag, run back to the stand. It was getting to be too much, and then the lines were getting long.
But it is true that our exchanges, though, with our customers are much more substantial, not so distracted now. Because I will, for instance, just be stocking and engaging, and it gives us an opportunity to educate so much more. And for us to learn about what people want, really be able to pay attention. It's still a blur. The market's always just a blur, but it does give us a little more opportunity to focus and sort of pay attention to what's going on.
Your method has really inspired other vendors at market to do the same thing, I noticed.
Yeah. The baskets were quick to people caught on quick with that. That was great.
Yeah.
And it's funny. And people, just shoppers, it's so convenient for them because many folks come with not enough arms to carry, and we're all used to going grocery shopping with a basket. That's what you do. And you just don't have to think about where are you going to put this in your arms when you want another thing and your hands are full. No, you pop it in the basket, or I need another basket.
So one of the things that people talk about a lot that I've had other people on my podcast talk about is how, farming isn't super profitable. There's the veterans to farmers sort of pathway that the state is working on, and there are a lot of programs that are trying to teach people how to farm. And besides the fact that farmers are not respected, which is something that I'm trying to build more respect for farmers, I really think we need to respect the people that grow our food. And I think that's, part of Pasa and part of that whole culture. Anyway, would you recommend farming for people as a career choice?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, you have to want to work. I think hands down, it has to be someone who's passionate about the labor and hours that go into running your own business. First off, anyone who owns a business knows that there's overtime,
Farming's a gamble.
Yeah, it is a gamble when it comes to working with Mother Nature.
That is that's hard to get used to. It's just knowing that a huge investment that you have out in the field right there, you could totally lose it. And that's where, I always reflect on the humble farmer, that everybody says, oh, the humble farmer. No, the humble farmer he's humbled out because he's just eaten shit. So many times he's had good success, but he's also very accustomed to loss. Every single year we lose things. Every single year, no matter what we try. And that's part of this work. That's why it's really hard for some people, and people get really upset about that stuff. And we all did. And I still do. But I just know that we're going to roll right into the next crop, and you just kind of take it.
Well, that's why diversity is really, really important. And that's why being a market farmer is really great, like a diverse farmer, because there's always going to be something, and it's not everything. I mean, even with some, I have friends that are grape farmers, they at least diversify their grapes. You're not going to grow one kind of grape, because then disease or whatever it is, there's always, you want to do diversity. Like that is how nature is strongest. Yeah, it is a great insurance. That's our best insurance policy that we have. But it's definitely a lifestyle, but it is a career that has great opportunity. So many things that we don't grow, that like for fruit, we don't have much organic fruit, even though we're attempting to expand that over time. There's possibilities for more and more people to eat local. There are farms that are not working anymore. There's food that could come to the city and be more local. We could have so much more local food being purchased by other grocery stores, or there could be more markets in the city. There's so many people that don't eat locally.
There's a big elephant in the room, though, I think, which is that you can grow food. You can say, okay, I'm willing to not have a fixed schedule. I will work early until late. I will work in the rain. I will work in the sun, whatever it is, the cold. I'm willing to do all those things. I can grow really good crops. And now where do I sell it? And I think that that's the biggie. And I think that's a lot of the reason why we see a steady decline. I think that if the money was there at the outset, it kind of ties into like the respect thing a little bit. But if you were able to generate really nice income, how many of those kids would have left that farm and then gone and worked somewhere else and make, pennies working for somebody else? They could have been working with their pop or, I will say two things. First thing is I think farming can be extremely lucrative. The other thing, I think that, in terms of our customers, we feel very, very well respected. This is a job that I cannot even imagine somebody else having a job where you are thanked so much for what you do. We get that so much. And I'm not just saying it's because like we're special as like we're like different from most other farmers. I'm sure everybody else gets the same gratitude, but it is overwhelming. And I think the more that people get educated about food and the differences in value, where you're buying your food from, and just how empowering it is to like know people that grow food, that are growing your food, to be able to talk to them, to educate yourself about what they're doing so you actually know what you're getting is really nice, and people love that. But I really do think that you can make a huge amount of money farming. It's just that farming as a business starts from zero. You can walk into a market and start kicking some butt, and that's really great. For a lot of us that started, say, for instance, the Squirrel Hill Farmers Market, when that first started, we had other farmers that dropped out right away. We're like, oh, this isn't happening. And we stuck it out, and it started to get really good. And then some folks wanted to come back in then when it started to roll. And you're like, oh, no. That's not the way it goes.
Yeah.
But, because now a farmer, now that those markets are supercharged in ways, a new farmer could roll into a market that is already exploding. There's still going to be a little bit of like an earning curve. People don't know you. They don't necessarily trust you right off the bat, but let your personality shine and roll right into that. But what an opportunity now. But that is what I think is the elephant in the room, is just not having the place to sell your perfect products.
Yeah.
It's like having that market and selling wholesale to Giant Eagle. Check out their business model. They're not going to give you squat, and if we were doing anything but direct sales for us, like we're doing direct sales through market and then CSA, so we're able to charge a premium price for that product. But if we were doing wholesale, you are going to have to do a number of different things. You're going to need much more ground. You're going to need much more mechanization. There's a lot more investment there, huge amount. And it's also really scary to have a lot of eggs in one basket. So we feel fortunate where we have come. We feel safe with CSA. We feel safe with market. It's people that we're all getting to know each other. We feel like we're cooperating well, and we only see it getting better. But I think it's a great time and a good opportunity for new farmers to come into the market right now, because there's a lot of people that want to buy good food. A lot.
Yeah, I feel like since 2020, it's been really beautiful to see the reinvigoration of people cooking food for themselves. It's really nice to have a customer ask questions. What's this? How can I do that? And just see new regulars coming, and like all because of COVID. People were forced into their home to do something they hadn't really thought, okay, yeah, I cook my dinner every once in a while, but really like, wow, okay, food is necessary. This is the one thing I have to go out and get: toilet paper, food, maybe some medicine, so it's like, what are the essentials here? And with that resurgence of customers, our farmers markets really came alive. It brought a new life to farmers markets after 2020. And in the sense of that realm, and yet it's not like every neighborhood could have a farmer's market. We've been asked to go to more markets. Farmers can only go to so many markets. So yeah, more farmers to make more markets. That would make sense to me. Like, we can only do so many because our truck is moving 6 days a week. I think we need that one day off. And if more people want more markets, then we need more farmers. So yeah, we need more farmers. I think that there's definitely the call out there.
A lot more food buyers though too.
But they're
people got to come out. They have to show up and buy, and that has happened a lot these past couple of years with new management at the city parks. They have done an excellent job at bringing people out. I think. I haven't really necessarily seen what it is, but the amount of new people the last 2 years has been very noticeable. When we're just so scrambled, you think everybody just knows what to do, and somebody says, hey, where do I pay? And just because the way that it's set up now, it's a little weird. And you're like, wow, this is incredible. So many people, particularly in fall, I think associated with the checks that folks are getting, those have been really good. But those are good to get the wheels going. Somebody comes out to the farmer's market because they have that little bit of impetus. They get a taste for like the exchange, chatting a little bit, seeing what everybody's doing, get some free sweet potatoes and whatever, try something new, and then they sometimes keep coming back.
And that perception of farmers markets are expensive is just blown out of the water when they're actually there to see it on their own. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, and when talking about price a little bit, I always do like to think about the idea of you're hungry and you go to say the gas station. Like, they're now having more and more, like, they'll put an apple there. Like, oh yeah, we should have some natural things for people to buy. That makes sense. That's like within the last, maybe 5 or 10 years that's happening. But when you go to those places, it feels, to me, that's like a food desert too. You're going and you're buying something with too many ingredients in it. It's not healthy. So when I think about, people are like, oh, it's so expensive for a thing of, a bunch of chard or a pepper. A candy bar is $1, $2. My peppers might be that much, but what is the nutritional value there? What are you getting out of that? Is that thing making you sick, or is that thing nourishing you? So I think that it's all in perspective. Food does cost money for sure. And in America, food is relatively cheap. So I'm excited to do more research around and see what other markets around the world, how much does it cost for certain things like that. But, I think the state of American nutrition and the idea of what we eat needs to be addressed at a younger age. And, how are kids being taught that, how are we making people aware of their bodies, and what goes in is really important. It means a lot to your state of life, because getting sick sucks. And if that means what you're putting in your body is going to make you not sick or sick, we need to make the right choice, because life is life is hard as it is. But if you can make these simple choices that make life a little easier, that's the value. Like, we have to change our ways so that we can, just be healthier and live healthier on the planet. Like an organic farm, okay, do we want a conventional or organic? Are you going to pay a little bit less, but then not like then have to deal with the residues and also think about like the residue that's on that farm and going down the stream? So it's all an impact, and you know, what's the value? It's just a different value. What are you valuing? Are you valuing your candy bar because it's 1 minute of deliciousness, or are you valuing the pepper because it's 1 minute of deliciousness and yet it's nourishing?
Are you valuing saving 50 cents? Or are you valuing your health, your overall health? You know, saving, buy the cheaper head of cabbage that's 50 cents less. It's usually what it is, something like 50 cents less. But then, like Aeros said, you know, there's residues, there's whatever it is, but there's a lot more to that equation. It's not just the residues, it's that ground. That ground, from our perspective, conventionally managed ground is never going to be able to compete with, in terms of what that biology is able to do for a plant, okay, as an organic farm. There's just, nobody can debate that, because if you are putting poison on your ground to kill something, then you are going to, it's going to be broad target, you know, it's
unintended consequences. Yeah,
you're going to kill a lot of the things that you're going to want later on. Now people can say, it'll reestablish, which is true. It can be incredibly resilient as long as you keep growing on it. But in other ways, you know, depending, I mean, you are spraying every single year, all those things, you know, accumulate, they bioaccumulate, and then it's just, you know, versus, I guess the way that instead of focusing on the negative, I'd rather focus on the positive and just say, you know, it feels really good to think that we're building soil. You know, we're making it better every year. And this past year, we worked with a soil consultant, which, you know, I don't know a lot of other farmers that have done that. And I had one farmer suggest that I work with this guy. And there's not a whole, I mean, there's a good amount of magic to it, I suppose, you know, trace minerals and looking at tissue samples of tomatoes at certain times of the year to see what that plant actually has coursing through its veins.
Whoa.
So cool. I mean, it's very empowering. But so that individual gave us our most productive year by far, where it was an issue. We had so many vegetables that we were in trouble.
That we
could not get rid of them.
Particular crop?
Well, we had so many peppers.
Yeah.
Peppers.
Yeah,
okay.
a lot of peppers.
We had 60 bins, 40-inch by 48-inch bins of onions. What am I going to do with that?
The value doesn't change. It's like we put the money in. I mean, the soil consultant is not cheap.
Yes.
Oh,
and
I bet.
You know, and then you're also thinking about
big investment.
You're putting on the exact what that plant needs. You're doing a lot more research. So it's like, oh, you know, it's like taking, for example, Chris and I are sort of treating our bodies like we treat our soil now. We're taking blood tests and we're looking at what's going on inside. We're just doing it's a very beautiful sort of holistic view now. Like,
is this going to be an installation piece you're doing?
Well, it is. We're the living documentation of understanding it more in depth.
Yeah.
What we are, what's going on inside, what's going on in our soil, what's going on in the plant. Okay, what are we ingesting? What are we not getting? Because our soil lacks, hands down, we know that we're lacking magnesium. Are our bodies lacking magnesium? Definitely. So we supplement, you know, like we supplement our soil, we're supplementing our bodies. So, but these are things that, you know, we are really excited about. This is very cutting edge for us and new, and we're really just on the cusp of really investigating and learning more. And that's where, you know, the idea of treating the crop in the soil versus the crop. And I mean, I'm excited for our customers to learn about their bodies and be able to access food that is at the best and that it can be, because we're trying to do that. You know, it's just like,
so
I'm excited by that.
What seems really important is to grow, you know, the best food you can, the most nutritious, and then you just assume, well, I'm going to eat that food, and then I'm going to be better for that. And so, but Aeros and I have gone from maybe really focusing on yields and having that be the indicator to success, to now being more interested in like sort of like tissue analyses to see that plant is really content and I mean, what you can learn from that is so huge. What an opportunity, because you can see, at a certain point, there's an onion goes from its growth stage to its bulbing stage, and you would be able to see the transition of what is pulling from the dirt at that time. It's because it's going to go from like nitrogen, whatever, to like potassium, phosphorus. And to be able to see that, I mean, we're never going to be able to afford all those tests, like to the extent that we would like to, but to watch certain key crops, such a great opportunity. But then, this is exactly really how we should be looking at ourselves too. Like the decisions in terms of what we eat should be driven by data. And none of us, as far as I know, are really going and like getting regular blood tests and seeing what's going on. We just assume that if we're putting in something good, then that has to be doing good. And it probably is, but what it doesn't tell us is what we're lacking. So we can go out here in the field in the same way. Let's just say I just go out there and I say, hey, I'm going to put compost down a lot. And I should probably lime it. Sounds like a good idea. Okay, I'll do that. And then during the season, I'll plant my plants, we'll fertilize, plant my plants, and then I'm going to put down drip tape, and I'm going to water them every week. And then every now and again, I'll give them a little bit of fish emulsion or something like that, just to give them a little sweetness. And there's a lot of assumption there. Now, if you're trying to make money on that, that is absolutely not the way to do it. If you're trying to make money on that and make a living, you absolutely need to be driven by data, by information like that. Because you're not dilly-dallying. You're not running in potentially the wrong direction and investing a lot of time and energy and money. So for us, it seems like for us, it's a very empowering moment in our sort of evolution as farmers to really have a lot of confidence in what we're doing, knowing that we are going to be capable given that we have information. We have information, so it kind of almost in a way takes the magic out of it. There's still a lot of magic going on there. You don't know what the heck's going on there when you're applying these things, but you know that, hey, we're low in this mineral here or whatever it is, macronutrient. Let's get a little more of that on, and you can watch that plant slowly start to take that up and send in those tests and get those analyses. It's cool. Very cool. It takes a lot of time. For me, I have a crew that can go out there and kick some butt, and they don't necessarily need me all the time. So I have the opportunity to do more of the scouting, more of the research, because in the season, I mean, there's not a minute to do anything. So the fact that I can actually do that rather than, let's say, harvesting all the time or be planting or tilling or whatever is a huge privilege. But this directly turns into money. It 100% turns into money because the flavor's better in the vegetable, they store better, they look better, they produce way better. So that time invested is a good idea.
They're better for you, that's something that hasn't been, there was, at least when I was in grad school back in 2010 to 2012, there wasn't a lot of research on, is organic actually more nutritious? Or I guess regenerative, like organic isn't even necessarily, because they might not care for the soil the way you guys do. So regenerative farming and food grown at that level is more nutritious, and it's also flavor, and flavor equals nutrients.
Yeah.
That's really great. I hope you have somebody who's going to be able to publish some of this data, because that's...
Be cool.
Yeah.
I gotta be organized.
We'll probably write about it in our newsletter. We do write our customers every week about, during the main season, what's going on. And we are, it's been a learning experience for us, and people enjoy it. It's definitely just like, as we learn, we share, and we try and do more and more about our thoughts on this ground experiment and experience that we're doing. It's a lifetime of learning, and there's every year's new. Each season presents new, trials and tribulations and goals and lessons, and there's so much that can be learned in the environment of a farm. Just from
incredible.
It's numerous. It's just from. There's so much learning. It is painful. It can be painful, yeah. But we tend to do it with smiles and tears, and we have an amazing crew that's supportive, and a community that's really supportive. Our neighbors that are here, I've always, just walk by and you just, hey, I'm having this, and you just have a conversation about it. Sometimes just talking out loud to some fresh ears, it's like, oh yeah, someone who's like in the same locale, and hey, we're having an amazing onion crop. So am I. It's just like, oh yeah, what's going on? And who knows? What was it this year? Maybe we'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm. What would be most helpful to you guys for your business?
I mean, for us, what I would like to see is more of an organized, like, collective push for a lot of the guys who are just trying to start out. Some of those smaller farms. Land access is hard, but to have just an army of people that want to buy your stuff is kind of hard too. It takes a lot of curating and encouraging, having a market in the right spot. But there are so many, just brilliant people out there that could probably, if it was organized, be able to contribute in such huge ways. Helping to get people to come out to market, and just having more of a culture that's sort of centered around, eating seasonal food, because that could be really fun. Like, the markets are fun, and we're slammed, so we have whatever fun that we can. But I always think about what you hear in Italy or wherever, and they have like festivals, Escarole or Radicchio, and you're like, what? And they have, but it's like, well, why don't we start our own festivals, and something other than sweet corn? I mean, sweet corn is cool.
Yeah, we might have a festival this coming year.
But like, why isn't there like a tomato party? The first markets of tomatoes, like, why isn't there just a bash? I mean, but just stuff that people are really excited about. And I'm not saying there's a lack of enthusiasm. I just think it could be, maybe encouraged in certain directions with some folks that have some really good ideas.
Well, did you guys attend the Pittsburgh County Fair?
We did not. We were a working market. So that's a very big limitation for us, is that we work Saturday and Sunday. We are the drivers of our trucks. And it's I think in these years to come, the goal is for us to have more time to have more on-farm events so that people can see the farm. I think that we know that it's a thing that people go out to other people's farms and pick this and do that. And it's very meaningful when we have our customers out here. It's really invigorating for us and them, and it's wonderful. And that is a goal that we're trying to get to, us not being the sole drivers for the markets. We do have a CSA driver now. It's amazing that we're not taking on that as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's just like, just as we've this is how we roll, like one step at a time. And in due time that we'll have more on-farm events, maybe more educational, but also just get people out into the country to enjoy the countryside, see and experience the beauty of an organic farm. I mean, I think if celebrate, and celebrate. We have a little bit in the spring, a business of just selling potted plants, and it's been really nice to hear from our customers. It was so fun to grow this with my family, and they have a really nice time. They get to harvest something. That is, like, if we can get that bug into people, it only takes, like, I think about even myself, like, becoming a farmer, like, the experience that I had on organic farm, I was very inspired over and over, and different farms going to, and I'm just like, this is a life I want to live. It was so nurturing to me. And, just even having a family to have a pot outside, and then maybe a little plot, and then, we're going to expand the garden. And hearing customers say that, like, I'm getting rid of some of my hedges and we're going to put a garden out front. It's so exciting, to be able to get that bug in someone. So I don't think, like, for our, like, it's the status of farmers for me, I think, it's sort of like, we're 1%. It's not a big,
you're the other
percentage.
1%.
You're the other 1%, exactly. So it's, we're sort of alone, but it's also because of big ag. It wasn't like this. A lot of people grew their own food, back in the day. So if we look at our present time, if we're having so many city dwellers and we're having, fewer and fewer country dwellers, it's nice to at least have that experience for people, I think, to grow things and to grow more and more. So we encourage that, with our plant sales.
People want to dig in a little more and kind of like understand, like, what's going on that farm. there's just a lot that goes on. At certain times, there's a lot of nurturing of soil, then there's a lot of ground preparation, and then there's harvest. And that's kind of the way it is, right? That's sort of like the wave. I think there's value in people seeing all that stuff, because I know that when I was starting out, I loved seeing farms in action. I love just seeing all the steps, because you're kind of like, just hard to wrap your head around like what you're doing, why you're doing it, when, and all the reasons behind all those decisions, you know.
I think that's also part of it should be part of the farmer training. Is, I mean, you guys aren't like taking elaborate vacations, and you're not swimming in jewels, and you don't have big fancy cars. So I think, you know, expectations should be limited a little bit when you're like, it's very lucrative. Right?
Oh yeah.
So that should be part of like, you have to want to live the lifestyle. And so there are a lot of things that instead of like, look, isn't this cool? It's not a 9 to 5. So yeah. I think all that needs to be incorporated into that.
Well, yeah, but when Chris is saying it's lucrative, we're into our 15 year. It does take a lot of time to get to the lucrative point. Like this last year, we were able to really like, wow, let's make our house safer and better for us, you know, like renovate it, redo the electric, and like make a kitchen that is really us, you know, like knock out a wall, put some windows in, and now we have a huge counter to do what we do and cook what we cook, and have, you know, like a home for our family that's beautiful and not just run down. And, you know, and because it's like we bought a 100-year-old farmhouse that, and that's what anyone would come to if they're starting a new farm. I mean, you're going to get a place that's old and not a lot of money put into it, or if they did, it was 30 years ago, you know. So I feel like it's all in time, but I mean, it is like we're not driving Mercedes, but I know farmers that drive Mercedes. You know, it can happen, you know, in years and years that you end up, you know, with a nest, and that's what you've worked for. You know, you work to make an awesome nest, you know, and I think that is where the liquidity comes with a lot of time and investment. I mean, when we retire, I mean, who knows if hopefully our children will want to farm. We're not sure if they will. I mean, if they do, they have an amazing nest to start with. Like we have built so much. We're trying to convince them that like, wow, you have a really great job here. like I'd like to work for gold. I only wish that my parents had a farm that I could just hop right on. Oh my gosh. And
But and I do mean that farming can be very lucrative. You know, it just, you have to be very thoughtful, but it doesn't start right at the outset.
But we bought our first new car last year. It was amazing, you know. So
you got to give it at least 10 years before you're feeling.
It depends, you know. Like, so markets are a lot different right now.
Gotcha.
A lot different. You know, there's a lot of money going to market. A lot. You know, like people are selling out. Holy, like when did that start? You know, I mean, just think about, you know, even just 10 years ago, Joe DiCino's and Joe King and all these guys. Like, were they selling out of all their stuff? Like, not really. And things were a lot cheaper. So now things are more expensive, but I mean, there's inflation. We certainly spend a lot more for our supplies and stuff, but we're making a lot more market.
And, so you're feeling the love, you're feeling the respect, you're feeling all those things.
Okay,
sure.
Absolutely.
Respect is definitely never. I've never felt disrespected as a farmer, ever. Maybe from like the highfalutin lawyer or whatever, like I'm in the city. Even myself, I feel very out of sorts, you know, because I'm a country bumpkin, you know, that's just who I am. You go to the city, I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone just looks so clean and pretty. And, you know, like I don't wear makeup. I don't have time for that. You know, I don't shave. I don't have time for that. There's just simple, like as a woman in my culture, I look, you know, very simple. As I should say, maybe that's like the nicest way to put it, you know. But I think I'm not disrespecting anyone's choice of style or class, like where they sit themselves. And I don't think to look at myself and feel, you know, respected or disrespected or equal. Like I feel equal as a human, but like everybody's job's important. You know, I think that we all make this earth how we're working together here. Like, peace is the most important thing, and then eating, but I think like coming to the farmer's market, that's why, Chris, why are we beating ourselves every Saturday and Sunday? Why do we do this? Because it's hard, because it's so intense. It is definitely an exhausting show, and it's because we get to talk to people. We get to have a relationship with people other than our customers and our family, because that's all we see is our customers and our family and our employees. And it's a great life we have on the farm, but it's very simple, But when we just have exciting conversations, and it's wonderful to expand our horizons with all walks of life.
The gratitude is mutual. It goes both ways for sure. Definitely. I mean, the newsletters, we share a lot, but it's only going one way.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But the discussion, sharing of, current events, whether it's on farm or off farm, definitely, because otherwise we probably seem pretty, not shallow, but we're just really preoccupied. We'd love to be able to get together with neighbors and chat and stuff, and they're getting together for a simple meet and greet. Like, you can't even just come over for a couple hours. And it's literally like, no, we actually can't. It's not a choice, really. Oh, it's a choice, absolutely a choice. But we have a big commitment, and we accept that commitment and the challenge. And like somebody said to me not so long ago, at what point did you start to think that you were going to quit?
And we both said never.
Never. I never, ever, ever thought one time that I was going to quit. That I was ever going to give up. Never once. I never thought that was an option, because kind of like what I said at the very beginning, my option was either I was going to grow good food or teach people about nature. But once I started growing good food, I was addicted. I was locked in. Even though it's challenging, it's hard, sometimes it's too much. It's always too much, honestly. It cuts down on family time. It cuts down on all your socializing, all the things that we think make life, worthwhile. But actually, like, growing food and kind of doing that, and just your camaraderie is like in the field, like that sense of bonding there and teamwork is really, really satisfying. Us all working together to sort of try to make this thing work is so fulfilling, because it's always evolving. There's something new and better you can do all the time, and it's exciting. I mean, that will probably start fading.
And we do.
As of right now, it's still really invigorating.
And we do really have like a wonderful social network on the farm. Like, we do cultivate employees that we enjoy working with, that are positive. We really do have a great crew, and it makes it easy. It is family-ish. Yeah, it's family-ish. It's really a rewarding experience in that way.
What are you guys excited about for this coming year?
Just what I was telling you about, following the biology, following the energy from the ground to the plant to the fruit to the person, like being able to see that clearer is so interesting to me. It just feels so rewarding. And I'm excited to share as much of that information as I possibly can, just to let people know like kind of what's happening. It gets pretty dorky, but if you think about at the end of it all, that you're better for it. It's like, why wouldn't you want to know more about that? You're doing these things every day. You're taking that tomato, you're taking a bite, you're eating the onions, you're doing the lettuce, all these things. And to be able to know a little more about that information, I feel like it's really good. And for us, I feel like it's good for our image. I'd like to be able to share information with folks, and I want to get people pumped about our food.
Yeah, we're definitely
really
dorking out on the biology right now. We're really great. Geeking out on it. And it's exciting to both of us. And we were talking the other day, like, wow, it'd be really a bummer if you weren't into this as well, because we were both like being fed off of it, and then, hey, did you see this? And read this? And, so it's really exciting to do that, to do the actual, be a part of the experiment. And we're working on our signage to be better at market, just to be, and our website to be more educational. It really feels valuable to see that we're learning, and as we're learning, we hope to educate. Basically that's the goal, to educate more and more our customers on, what it is the food is, how to put it in your refrigerator. Like, some people don't even know, put it in a bag. Okay, this vegetable goes in a bag. This one goes on the counter. Because it's simple stuff that can make the great food last longer so that you have time to eat it. So it's just the simple stuff, but it also, what's a probiotic? What vegetable is a probiotic? What, so all these things that we can learn and hopefully pass on so that we can all be healthier. Like that's just...
And we might have a fair.
Exciting. Yeah, we might have a fair, have a little festival.
Like a fall fair like everybody's doing with pumpkins and food trucks and some music and some cool things for kids. But like those sorts of connections, I feel like we do a good job on veggies. We do a good job on representation in the city. I feel like those things have been working out for us. But where we're sorely lacking is making that final connection to the farm and to like kind of feel that vibe. Because when we had some folks come out in the fall and they were just, all we did was drive, really, we hung out, we spoke a little bit, but they honestly just wanted us to shut up and drive around while they're sitting on a wagon. I was pointing around on a wagon, hay wagon. And they just wanted to see the freaking fields.
But they didn't want you to shut up. They were excited to hear you talk. That was what they're like, hey, we're like, Chris, turn off the tractor. I didn't hear what you said back there. Or Aeros, what did you say? What were you telling them?
But it is so different to do this versus the life that folks live when they're just like, they wake up, they go to work. Like we all do that same sort of rhythm. But like that lifestyle versus our lifestyle, it's just so different. So I get it.
And who doesn't love a tour? I mean, I remember the tours of like that I had of like even in town, the little peanut butter factory. It's cool to see how something was made or see how does this work? Ooh, wow. And that's just cool. So I think if we can just get the nitty gritty of getting people out here, getting organized to set a calendar and we can stick to it, that's been difficult for us. So just really... we're working on order to be a little bit more organized to get more people out. It's far from Pittsburgh, so we need to give advance notice. We need to be better at publicizing that. So,
so you're going to dip your toe into some agritourism for 2024. That sounds exciting.
I think that's a really, really good move on our end.
The next step.
We do.
Well, Chris, Aeros, thank you so much for your time and for showing me your beautiful farm.
You're welcome. Thank you,
Shelly. Thanks for coming out.
With Bowl and Spoon is written, produced and hosted by Shelley Danko Day. Copy editing by Carolyn Ristow of Details Review. Original theme song was written and performed by Paul LeBreeze and Friends. You can listen to With Bowl and Spoon wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe, like, review and share. Follow us and send us questions or messages on Facebook and Instagram at With Bowl and Spoon. Thanks for listening.